Chapters 7 and 8 of A Fool There Was by Porter Emerson Brown. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Chapter 7. An Incident. Destiny had a sense of humor sardonic, it is true, cruel, sometimes gruesome, and yet it is a sense of humor. Otherwise, there had been in France a man of the nobility, a man in whose veins flowed the blood of 3 kings, a man handsome of face, graceful of figure, debonair, a man who had sinned much, and who had paid for that sinning only in the sufferings of others, and they had been many. That man had many estates, many servants, many horses, much money. He had been to Brittany twice, and only twice, yet he went a 3rd time, and after 5 years. He went alone. He rode his horse through the narrow, brush-grown path by which had gone the stranger who had seen the naked girl at the edge of the woodland pool 5 years before. And he came at length to the edge of the wood, and to the clearing where lay the little hut, smoky, dirty, littered. He dismounted from his horse there, why he did not know. He went forward to the hut. An old woman, bent, white-haired, sat on a rude chair in the sun beside the door. She looked up as he approached. She in no way heeded the elaborate bow that he made, a graceful bow, low and sweeping, and yet a salutation sarcastic. "Bonjour, madame," he began. "Madame looks well, but death is never far from the aged. It should be a consolation," looking about him casually, "for one who lives as madame." The shriveled old woman made no answer. The man went on evenly, the while tapping with the end of his slender crop a booted leg. "Eh bien, I have come, as you see. The paternal passion will not down in the breast of a man domestically inclined." He laughed. "I have been going about, seeing my families." He smiled. "It has been interesting, drolly interesting. Ma foi!" Yet again he laughed musically. "There have been pleadings and revellings, tears and curses, bended knees and unbended arms." He indicated with a graceful gesture a deep cut upon the back of his left hand. "It was a woman, a very pretty woman," he explained. "At least she had been pretty, and she was again pretty when she did that. Her eyes, it was like lighting a fire in a cave. Did you ever light a fire in a cave, madame?" he queried gently, graciously, and then, "But of course not. Women kindle their fires in stoves or fireplaces. It is for men to light the fires of caves." Yet once more he laughed softly. The old woman, with the white wispy hair, still was silent, motionless, though her eyes spoke. And that which they spoke, his eyes heard, and once more he laughed. "I had a daughter here," he continued. "Did I not? Or was it a son? Ma foi, it were difficult. Ah, yes, I remember now. A daughter, a little red, hairless, dirty thing she was. I have a great curiosity. The blood of 3 kings, you know. Surely that would overcome the blood of the good God knows how many peasant swine. She is not red and hairless and dirty now, in faith. She is clean-lipped and straight and white. 1,000 louis to a sou, that she is." His brow was creased in the travail of retrospection. "I gave her a name, did I not?" he asked. "It seems to me, yes, Rien it was. A very pretty name. Yes, an excellent name, meaning much and little, Everything, and yet nothing. He laughed at his own conceit softly. Tell me, where is she now? It might be that she is dead, eh? He eyed the old woman closely. Then he shook his head. No, he went on. She is not dead. He had seen nothing, that is certain. Yet suddenly he ceased in his speech. The smile left his lips, and slowly, very slowly, he turned. She was standing there, behind him, her eyes upon him. She was straight and slender and perfectly formed. A single garment covered her, running across one shoulder, reaching to her knees. It left one breast exposed, and the white slender legs and perfect feet. She stood in a posture of infinite grace, of infinite poise. She looked at him. Then it was that the shriveled old woman spoke. She said to the girl, "Votre père," and that was all. The child looked at the man looked at the child, and so for a long, long time they stood eye upon eye. At length she began to smile a little with her lips, but he did not smile. After a long, long time she took a slow, sinuous step toward him, then another. He stepped back, still looking at her, his eyes still on hers. He was back to the great cliff, the sheer cliff at the base of which the huge seas ever beat in sullen, unceasing impotence. Yet another step she took toward him. His breath came chokingly, gaspingly. Yet another step he took away from her. Yet another, and then... It was an accident, perhaps. Yes, of course, it must have been an accident. He had not noticed. For, as again she advanced, her eyes on his eyes on hers, again he retreated. And suddenly, in utter silence, save for the rending of crumbling earth and uprooted grass, he slid over the edge of the great rock. Before the eyes of the girl lay only the restless, heaving sea, and beyond, the dull gray of the horizon and the cupped sky. She turned slowly, smiling a little. The shriveled, shrunken old woman bent her head forward upon her flat breast, thrice. Bien, she muttered, and that was all. Chapter 8. Of Certain Goings. It so happened that, on the winter after Jack Schuyler and Tom Blake graduated from college, death came to the big house on the avenue. Mrs. John Stuyvesant Schuyler went first. Mrs. Thomas Cathcart Blake went almost with her, for she had been by the bedside of her friend during all her illness, and her friend, going, had bestowed upon her its horrible heritage, and so she went too. Their going left in the two great houses monstrous voids that might never be filled. John Stuyvesant Schuyler and Thomas Cathcart Blake loved their wives, and when a man has loved a woman, and that woman his wife, as these two had loved, it seems in a way to disrupt the cosmogony of things. It takes ambition away from the brain, and the stamina from the spine, and the days are very, very long, while the nights are yet infinitely longer. Thomas Cathcart Blake, in the vastness of all that now was not, forgot to care for himself. He who had been jovial became silent. Sometimes of nights he would walk alone for hours. The weather made no difference. In fact, he seldom noticed what the weather was. He was an old man now, close to 60. Dr. Delancey, on a night visit, met him one thick, sodden night at the corner of 33rd Street and the Avenue, coming from the club. The good doctor bumbled out of his brougham, seized him by the arm, and drew him, wet and dripping, into its protected interior. "You fossiliferous-headed old chump!" he howled exasperatedly. "You pin-headed old amphibian! If your sole and utter ambition is to get pneumonia and die, I don't know any way in which you can better achieve your purpose. Sit down in the corner there and drink this." He extracted from his case a little flask of brandy. "Or I'll ask the horse to come in and bite you. Turn around there, Mose," he yelled, "and drive to Mr. Blake's house." Mose did so, and once there, the doctor, abusing and bullying his patient, got him upstairs and into the bed, and then applied to the protesting man, who seldom had known what it was even to have a cold, all manner of exposurial antidotes. "But the patient that you were going to see," protested Thomas Cathcart Blake. "No friend of mine," returned Dr. Delancey. "Only a patient. Patients are plenty, but friends are few. Let him get someone else, or die, as he chooses. It's none of my business. Here, drink this." And he poured between the protesting lips of Thomas Cathcart Blake a nauseating draught of something that was most malodorous, for Dr. Delancey was an allopath, and a good one. But, good as he was too late. Pneumonia had been before him, and 2 weeks later, in spite of all that good doctor and several other equally good doctors could do, Thomas Cathcart Blake died, and he didn't seem sorry at going. Before he went, he called to him his son, and to that son he said many things. Most of the things that he said are neither your business nor mine. But of the things that he said, we may know one. He wanted his son to marry the daughter of the widow of Jimmy Blair. Young Tom Blake, between the sobs that are becoming a man, answered, "I want to, Dad. I've always wanted to, and I will if I can." His father counseled weakly, "Get her honestly, boy, or not at all. If you get her, cherish her. Give her everything that there is in you to give, for there's nothing that a man can give that a good woman doesn't deserve. Now, God bless you, son, and go." Tom Blake clung to the sheets. It was hard to lose such a father and such a mother, and all within a 6-month. He cried as you would cry, or I, and be glad that crying might be. Dr. Delancey at length managed to loosen his clenching fingers. Dr. Delancey was crying too. The tears ran down his veined cheeks to lose themselves in the hair of his cheeks. He tried to fume and fuss and splutter, as was his wont, but he couldn't. He could just put his hand around Tom Blake's heaving young shoulders, listen to his choking, broken sobs, and say, over and over and over again, "There, there, my boy. There, 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 there." It's pretty hard, you know, to lose a father and a mother like that, and all within 6 months. End of chapters 7 and 8.